Hi, this is Kyle from Off-Road Consulting, and today we're going to talk about high lift jacks. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to do a video about high lift jacks is because I've been seeing a lot on the internet where people are like, oh, it's the death jack, they're so dangerous, don't buy one, you're gonna kill yourself. And this is actually one of the safest and easiest to use off-road tools, but it comes down to the understanding of it and the person using it. If you understand how to use one safely and you take your time, they are perfectly fine, but you have to understand the jack. And that's what we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about a couple different features with the jack so you understand what to do and what not to do. When using a high lift jack, it's key to understand where to put the jack when you are going to jack the vehicle up. I've had customers come to me already that had brand new vehicles like a Grand Cherokee that had plastic bumpers, plastic rocker guards. And they're like, oh, I bought this high lift and I want to use it. Well, there's no place on their vehicle to really use it. Sure, they might have a receiver hitch in the back that you could jack the vehicle up with, but whenever you're going from a wide stance of the two tires out here to a single stance in the middle with the jack, the vehicle is going to topple one way or the other. When you're looking at your vehicle trying to decide where to put the jack, if you have rocker protection, yes, you can jack from the side. But when you jack from the side, it's going to lift the entire side, which means it's going to lift both of these tires, not just one. If you want to individualize it to an individual tire, what you want to do is put it at that individual corner. So if you're jacking the rear tire, you want to put it on this rear corner. If you're jacking this front tire, you want to jack at this front corner. Now, one key thing is also understanding where is the vehicle going as you're jacking it. And I'm going to do a couple different scenarios with this so you can truly see what happens. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to simulate that this tire is flat. So we want to jack this corner up. So first thing, before you do any of that, get everything out you need before you start jacking the vehicle up. And this is a key step, because if you jack the vehicle up and then you go, oh, I need to get my lug wrench out, now I need to get other accessories, I need to do this, I need to do that. My spare tire is inside. I don't have it hanging off the back, I have it inside because I like to balance the weight lower and down in the back, and I don't need a back seat, so I keep my tire inside. Well, if I'm going to jack this corner up and I put the jack here and I start jacking it up, well, guess what I can't do now? I can't open the tailgate. So you want to get out everything you need before you start jacking it up. So when you jack the vehicle, it's not interfering with trying to get in here with any accessories or any things needed. Plus, it's a lot more stable when you're in there crawling in, moving things around. It's a lot more stable sitting on the ground like this. So we're going to jack from this corner to lift this tire. So, a couple options. I can jack from the side here, but as I jack from the side, it's going to cause the vehicle to lift both these tires. First thing first, I want to make sure I put gloves on just so it doesn't pinch my fingers. People often overlook with this is when they go to jack the vehicle up, they want to keep the jack straight up and down. Well, as you jack, naturally the vehicle is going to roll. So as I jack this up, the body is going to roll to the passenger side. So if I start with the jack straight up and down, well, by the time I get those tires off the ground, the jack's actually going to be leaning like this, which makes it very unstable. So what I try to do is start out with the jack leaning back a little bit, so when I'm done jacking, it's where I want it to be. So now I'm going to start with it leaning slightly. Now I'm hooking into the bar of the body of the rocker guard. Now, do they make little attachments to go around that bar? Yes. Are they needed? It's up to you. If you want to purchase it to put it on the end of the jack to have it as another attachment, you can. All I'm going to do now is start jacking. Now, with jacking. See what I'm doing with this? And where my body positioning is. As I'm jacking, naturally, I'm taller than where the jack is. So I want to lean down. And where I'm leaning into is this triangle. So this is one of the main spots where people get injured. Because they'll start jacking, and every crank, it gets heavier. So, right now there's no weight on it. No weight at all. Now I have weight. So if I let go, it's going to fly back up. But every click, and it goes up, it clicks again. As I go down with it again, it gets heavier. Every time it gets heavier and heavier. So naturally, you start to lean into it to use your weight as leverage. And then what happens is you get this far, your hand slides off and smack up against your jaw. So you always want to stay out of this triangle here. Don't let that jack handle come up and get you. If you can't jack without leaning in, go from the back side and squat with it using your leverage. Because here, it's away from my face. And you can jack like this, even. Whatever you need to for leverage to keep yourself out of this triangle. Now notice how the whole vehicle is leaning. Not just one tire, the whole vehicle. Now I'm pretty centered in the middle, but I'm showing you how much it leans. Now I have the vehicle parked in two-wheel drive, and I have that there for a reason. I did not chock the wheels, and it's in two-wheel drive. So once one tire goes to come off the ground, okay, this tire's off the ground, this one's barely touching, but look what happens. Notice how it started rolling backwards, because I don't have any of the wheels chocked, and it's in two-wheel drive. When it's in two-wheel drive, only one rear tire is holding it. So notice how I can't roll this tire. Park is holding this tire. And all it did was rotate it back so that touched the ground and held it again. Because I'm not in four-wheel drive, front tires aren't holding anything. I don't have a wheel chock there, so nothing is holding it. It's another spot where people make mistakes. They want to change this tire, they start jacking it up, now it rolls. And now it's in a uncomfortable position. So now what we're going to do is lower the jack back down. I'm going to show you the lever for jacking up and jacking down here in a second. But this lever, it's down to jack down, up to jack up. So now, no weight till it clicks. And as soon as I push down and it clicks, now I have the weight. I don't want to be in this zone. And what'll happen if you lose control and your hand slips off, you'll end up with one of these. So imagine if your head was in there. That's why you have to stay out of this triangle. So now what I'm going to do is hop in and put the vehicle in four low. Now that it's in four low, not only am I using the gearing of the transfer case, but I'm also using front and rear drive. Now, if I jack one tire off the ground, there's always another tire on the ground holding. Plus, I want to chock the wheels. Now, because I'm jacking on the driver's side, I want to chock the passenger side, because that's where all the weight transfer is going to go. So I'm going to put a wheel chock on this side. Now, you saw as I jacked the vehicle up, it started to roll that way. Now, back what I was saying with, as it jacks, it slowly moves the jack straight. So I always want to factor that in. Now we're going to jack from this corner to just get one tire off the ground. Now the first thing I want to do is make sure wherever I put the jack that it's not going to slide off. So I don't want to put it on this edge. Oh, the flat part here at the bottom's nice, but I want to make sure it has something to catch. Because again, as it jacks, it's going to lean passenger. So I want to make sure it doesn't slide off. Could you use a shackle in a D-ring mount or a shackle mount? Yes, you can. Now, this bumper has a bracket right here that bolts it to the frame. So I want to be just inside that bracket so it catches the jack. And it's going to catch this little lip here is going to be between the bumper and the frame right against that bracket. I do this just to make a flat spot for the jack. It's inside that bracket. Now, this is that lever I was talking about. I want to click that up. Now it's in the jacking up position. I can let go of it and it's just going to stay. It's not going to fall back down. Now, with this, as I jack, the suspension's actually going to roll slightly front. Very, very minimal. So I can have it straight up and down, but it will roll that way. So I have to factor that in. Just gonna kick it just a little bit to start it. Now, I'm going to jack the vehicle up, but I'm going to stay out of this triangle. Watch how easy this is. Again, one-handed. I'm not huffing and puffing. I'm not out of breath. Okay, so now you see it moved a little bit. It shot forward just a hair. Now, could that be that it just put weight on the wheel chock? It just finally caught the drive of the load in four-wheel low? It could be either way. But notice how I was anticipating that, and now I stopped. Jack is still pretty close to being straight up and down. Tire's almost off the ground, but this is where I stop and I assess. Is everything still good? Yes. Now I just want to go just high enough to be able to change the tire. So now, this tire is off the ground. I could change this tire if need be. Am I worried about it falling off the jack? You should always be worried about it falling off the jack, whether it's a bottle jack, a floor jack, a scissor jack, anything of the sort. But to show you how stable it is, see how much force it took me to push that? That's a lot. And notice how it still hasn't fallen down. It went slowly. So you would literally have to lean against this, push against it, fight with it for it to fall over. It's pretty secure on that jack if you jack it properly. It's settled back down. So what I do when I have the jack up off the ground, I'll take the lug nuts off, do this, feel how stable it is. I'll pull the tire off, but when I pull the tire off, I go ever so slowly, and I make sure I stay out of any zones that are going to fall back and hit me. So I'll pull it off nice and easy, make sure it's good, move the tire off to the side, grab the new one, gently put it back on. If you have extra friends around, have them lean against the vehicle to help hold it from falling. It's all in how you think of things ahead of time, how safe you are from the start. Would you break out jack stands? If you're on a gravel road and you carry them with you, sure. I don't carry that extra weight on the trail. It's too much extra weight. I just make sure everything else is secure. What you can also do is when you take that tire off, slide the tire underneath the frame so it gives it something to fall down onto. If I'm going to be crawling underneath it and laying underneath the vehicle, first off, you shouldn't, but just say I have to. I'll put logs or rocks underneath there so it won't fall down and crush me. But the key part of this is how smart you are with it. Stay out of any zone that's going to come back and hit you. Take the extra time to set it up properly to make sure it's stable. And I'm going to show you one more of those. We're going to jack it from the front of the vehicle. I'm going to show you again another. I showed jacking from the side, I showed jacking from the back. Now we're going to jack from the front. And I want to show a couple different setups with this. Now, I have a unique bumper, but it all depends on what type of bumper you have. You can have one that has brackets or holes notched out to put the high lift jack into. If you have one with a shackle mount, you can put the shackle in through the shackle mount. And use that as an attachment point. There are companies out there that make all sorts of brackets that bolt into the shackle mount that attach to the end of the jack. But again, you got to look at every piece you buy is another 5-pound hunk of metal. Is it really needed? I don't have any of those. I don't carry any of those. Even the accessories I showed you a little bit ago, I don't carry any of those with me when I'm out in the woods. But for the last 25 years I've been doing this, I haven't needed any of them either. I always find a way to get it out or fix the situation. So one thing you can do here is like this in the shackle. That will be enough to support it. Now, there are some naysayers out there that'll say, oh, this isn't that strong. I'll tell you right now, that shackle's got plenty of strength. And this shackle has a wide enough part of the bow here that's wider than the high lift accessory bolt that goes through the middle. It's plenty strong if you have it hooked up right. And if you notice, I'm starting to create a theme here of it's not the jack's fault, it's not the vehicle's fault, it's not your attachment's fault. It comes down to you as the user. If you are safe, if you hook it up correctly, it will be safe. If you do it incorrectly, it is going to be an unsafe situation. It comes back to you as the operator. Now again, I'm going to stay out of that death triangle. And you don't have to be a big burly person to do this. It's more of leverage and having enough force to push down on this handle. And if you need to, squat with it. Have other people help you if need be, but stay out of this dangerous zone. Now you notice I'm getting to the end of the jack, and I wanted to do this on purpose. This is a Clayton suspension, so it's a very flexy suspension, and I have the sway bar disconnected. If I wanted to be able to do this without jacking up as far, what I could do is reconnect the sway bar. I could add a ratchet strap from the frame under the axle back to the frame to stop the suspension from drooping. There's a couple different things you can do with it, but I know this Jeep pretty well, and I know that with the 48-inch high lift, I can get right here to the end, and then the tire is off the ground. Now, I can't put this up and clip this with this clip back onto the bar. It won't, there's no bar left. So I have to be very careful of this, that nobody bumps it and knocks it. So the tire is off the ground, but barely. That's good enough. That's what I need to change this tire. But again, I can reconnect the sway bar or add a ratchet strap underneath. Now, for stability, see how much force it took to move it? Gently pull the tire off. Put the tire back on gently. But where this gets a lot of operators, they're tired, they're muddy, they're wet, they're cold. Now they start making mistakes. It's hurry up, get it done as soon as possible. Slow it all down. Take your time. To put the jack down, I'm literally just going to down, and I'm taking my time. My hands are greasy, dirty, muddy. I have to watch I don't slide off the end of the bar. So I want firm grip. Also, I'm staying away from that triangle again. Click. Now I have the weight as I go up. Now I have no weight on it. Still want to be careful. Slow it all down. Doesn't matter. Take all the time you need. Take all day to make sure you do it properly. Take the extra few minutes to think your way through it to make sure you have everything hooked up correctly. It's not as scary when you take your time like that. Almost every single injury I've seen with a high lift jack is from somebody either going too fast, cutting corners, their hand slides off, the bar comes up and hits them in the face. Then I also want to show you how to shift the vehicle to get it to move by manipulating things with the jack. Imagine the rear differential. This is the easiest scenario. You were driving along, there's a big rock, you slid your differential across the rock, now it fell into a crack in the middle of the rock. Differential fell down between. Can't go forward, can't go backwards. Now, could you winch yourself off of it? Yes, but you run the risk of damaging other things by having that differential wedged down in that rock and trying to winch forward or backwards. Now, the other thing you can do is you could jack up one side with that lift mate, put some rocks, go over to the other side, jack that up, do the same thing. It's a lot of work. So look at which way it'd be better. Will it be better sliding to the driver's side, sliding to the passenger side? And this works also if you're in ruts and you can't get traction. You need to jack the vehicle up and move it out of the ruts. With this rack on, I can't get to the receiver hitch with the jack. So I just open this up. Now, sometimes this stays, sometimes it doesn't, like that. So then what I will do is now that stays out of the way. So now what I want to do, in this situation, we're going to move it to the passenger side. So I'm going to make a mark here in the dirt to show how far we can move it. Now, the more flexy the suspension is, the less it'll move. The taller the vehicle sits, the less it'll move. Stock vehicles, you can move far. I want it to move that way. So I have two options here. I can put the jack dead center in the receiver hitch, and I could jack the vehicle up, get it to where it's about unsteady, and then I could push the vehicle and let it fall off the jack. What I also like to do is move it with the jack. Now, with moving it with the jack, same thing, kick it a little bit this way. Now, when I jack, everything is under load, so I have control by the handle. But watch what happens as I start to jack the vehicle. Now you see where I'm getting the suspension? I'm lifting everything up. And again, I'm staying away from that triangle. And I lifted everything up to where those rear tires are barely on the ground. If you're thinking, oh, well, that doesn't raise the differential up, all it does is open the suspension. It raises the differential up because when the weight of the vehicle is sitting down, you're bulging the tires, so you have that little bit of compression, and you have the suspension weight on it. When you lift the suspension, then it starts to lift everything up, and it lifts the weight, which makes it move easier. So we probably raised that differential an inch or two just in doing this, which is enough to get it out of a crack or off of a rut. Now, you may have to dig a little off to either side so it has a groove to slide in, but watch. Now I want to stay away from right here so this doesn't kick back and hit me. See how easy it is to just walk the vehicle around. Now I could keep going further, but I run out of jack. Now, do I want to get a bigger, longer jack to the 60-inch? Absolutely not. Those are very bulky, and the higher you go, the more unsteady it is. But right here's where the tire started. Right there's where the tire finished. So that's about 16 inches all said and done. So I just moved to 16 inches by that. I could keep going further. The reason why it didn't go very far is because it's a very flexy suspension, and it's a vehicle on 35-inch tires. Stock or lower is much easier. But see how you can manipulate it by turning it that way. Now you can see how you can use that accessory to jack the tire off the ground. Does it go quick and easy? Yes. But the only real benefit I see of that is being able to jack the vehicle up enough that you can stuff things under the tires. I don't do that often. I'll find other ways to make it work. But does this work? Yes. I just don't like carrying extra accessories for no reason. I want to keep things as simple as possible, carry the least amount I need, but carry enough stuff. So this is a piece that I've very rarely ever even considered using. I come up with other ways. You can buy any accessory you want for a high lift jack, and there's thousands of them out there. But when it all comes down to it, it's how well you use it. I like having the high lift because it's the fastest, quickest, easiest jack to use. You literally set it down, slide it up to where you need to, lock that lever in place and start jacking. As long as you respect the jack.